I stand in Richard Harper's lobby. The turnstile flashes red. The guard says, "Not on the list." At his wedding, my son said I was dead. Now I'm blocked from seeing Richard. So I pull out my phone and leave one calm voicemail. The first time I saw my name missing from my son's wedding program, I thought it was a printing error. The envelope was fat with cardstock. I slid it open with a box cutter, shook out the booklet, and thumbed to the family page. Mother of the groom deceased, father of the groom, blank space. The font looked expensive, like it was meant to make lies behave. I checked the cover. Ceremony, Saturday, 3 p.m. Same flourish on the footer of every page. The date sat there like a dare. I dialed Nathan. He picked up on the second ring, a smile in his voice. "Hey, Dad, you got the program?" "I did. I'm not in it. We only listed people still alive." For a second, I thought the line would break. "Is that a joke?" "Kind of," he chuckled. "It reads cleaner that way. Less clutter. The more, guess I'm a ghost now." "Dad, don't start. It's a design choice." "It's a decision," I said, "and decisions come with a record." He went quiet. I heard traffic, then a door chime. "Look, Olivia's handling this stuff. It's not personal. It's written. Sing out of this before the weekend, please." I looked at the footer again, Saturday, 3 p.m., and felt the clock sitting on my chest.
"Sure," I said. "I will make a scene."
"Thank you," he said, and hung up. I laid the booklet on the kitchen table like evidence. I took 3 photos, the cover with the date, the family page with the blank, the footer with the time. Then I slid the program into a plastic sleeve and labeled it, "Program received Friday." Olivia's profile sits at the top of my feed. A new post pulsed, the family table. Place cards in neat rows, no card with my name. Caption, "Harper plus Carver, all the people we love in one room, Colin." I saved the image and the URL. My cursor hovered over the comment box, then retreated. Dignity first, heat later. I scrolled through older pictures. Nathan on a rooftop, careless. Olivia in white against a beach. They looked like they belonged in the brochure that came with the program. I closed the laptop and stared at the booklet again. It's a strange thing, seeing yourself erased in ink. That's my honest line, and it landed heavier than I liked. Blink Nathan, back. Voicemail. I tried again, busy. The box cutter was still on the counter. I opened the drawer where I keep manuals and warranties and slid the program in front and center. If they were going to write history in fancy type, I would keep a copy. My phone buzzed. A group thread from a cousin. Rehearsal details. Dress code. Shuttle. I scrolled until the schedule graphic filled the screen. Ceremony Saturday 3 p.m. Same script as the program, same dare. I dialed again. Nathan answered, but didn't say hello. "Still me," I said. "I want to be clear about tomorrow. Dad, I'm heading into a meeting. 2 minutes. A sigh. "Fine. I'm attending. I'll sit where you want, but I expect to be addressed as what I am." "What's that?" "Alive. Your father." Silence. "Don't stir things up before the wedding." End quote. I don't stir. I build. I've got to go. "Of course you do." The call ended. I looked at my hands. Old hands, steady when they have to be. In the bedroom closet, my funeral suit hung in plastic. I slid it out and checked the shoulders for dust. The fabric was still good. I hung it on the door where I could see it from the hall. Armor, not costume. I texted Olivia. Asterisk, quick question. Is the seating chart final? Want to be sure I'm in the right spot. I watched the bubble start, stop, start again, then vanish. I set the phone face down beside the labeled sleeve and the box cutter. Astor's paper tool time. 3 things that don't lie for long. Her reply didn't come. The phone buzzed on my desk, skittering a little against the wood. New message, family thread. I thumbed it open. Nate. Dad won't be attending, health issues. We'll miss him, but he insisted we keep things simple. Crimson, the venue graphic. Saturday, 3 p.m. in scroll work. Same font as the program. I took a screenshot. The time stamped across the top at 5:12 p.m., like a stamp on my forehead. I stared at the wedding program lying beside the keyboard. Same date, same dare. I called Nathan. He let it ring to the last second, then, "Hey, I'm in the middle of something." "You told the family I'm not coming." "I said you weren't feeling up to it. People understand. I'm up to it. This is exactly the kind of stirring that if I'm sick, it's only with the lies you've been feeding them." Silence, then a tone. I knew from when he was 10 and cornered. "It's for optics." Olivia's side gets nervous about variables. "A variable? I'm a man. My word is my heart. My life is my family. I am a man who builds, a man who makes his own way. I am a man who makes sure his word is kept. I am a man who makes sure his commitments are honored. I am a man who keeps a record. I am a man who builds. I am a man who keeps a record. I am a man who builds. I am a man who keeps a record," he said. She smiled, the way people do when they've already chosen the story. "Rest up." "I will." I closed the mailbox. The lie had gotten its shoes on and walked the block. Back inside, I set the phone on speaker and hit Nathan again. Voicemail picked up, his voice bright. "Leave it here." "Here it is," I said after the tone. "I'll be at the ceremony. I'll sit where you point. Call me back if you're brave enough to say it to my face." I ended the call and opened my notes app. I titled a line, "Thread Health Story, 5:12 p.m., and pasted the image. One item, one time. I didn't need a pile, I needed a clean chain. The program on the desk caught a stripe of late sun through the blinds. It glowed like something holy and wrong. I typed a message to Olivia. "Is the seating chart final? Want to be sure I'm in the right spot." 3 dots flickered, then died. The cousin sent a thumbs up I hadn't asked for. I let it sit, picked up the phone once more, then set it down. Sometimes the smartest thing on a job is to stop drilling. The group thread remained open on the screen, the 5:12 p.m. stamp staring back. I didn't correct anyone. Not yet. The bell over the print shop door made a flat little ding, the kind that says, "Nobody here is impressed by weddings." "Afternoon," the clerk said without looking up. He was feeding cardstock into a finicky tray. Behind him, a whiteboard read in red marker, "Fry, 10 a.m., final run locked." I held up the booklet. "I need to verify this is the version you ran." He wiped his hands. "Client sign-off was this morning. Anything after 10 is gravy. We don't pour." "I'm not asking for changes," I said. "I'm asking for proof." That word made him smile a little. "We do proof, privileged." He slid the booklet onto the counter and tapped a keyboard. "Job number here, Harper Carver ceremony, signed at 9:42 a.m., family page, yeah." He turned the monitor. The layout stared back at me. Asterisk, mother of the groom deceased. Next line, nothing. Asterisk, "Can I get a printout with a timestamp and your stamp?" I asked. "You a lawyer?" Surrendered. "No," I said. "A father." He shrugged. "Hit print." A laser hum answered. He pulled a narrow strip, a job confirmation with date, time, and his store seal in blue. He pressed the seal again, harder. "For luck," he said. "Olivia." "Samuel, yes. Hi, quick thing. Nathan said you stopped by a printer. Why? Consciously doesn't get hacked by family." "Right, Tone. We really want to keep things simple. You don't need to be documenting. I don't need to be erased either. Please don't make this adversarial," she said softly. "It's a celebration." Ejected. "It still can be," I said. "Celebrations are better when the names are right." "I have to jump," she said, voice cooling. "See you tomorrow." Hung up. The clerk had been pretending not to listen. He slid the strip toward me with 2 fingers. "Keep it flat. Ink smears if you pocket it hot." I laid the wedding program beside the strip, folded the booklet once, and tucked the strip inside like a spine. "Can you make me 1 copy of the family page, full page with footer time?" He looked at the whiteboard, then at me. "We don't reprint after cut. It's not a change. It's a copy of what you printed." He looked at the rule against the man in front of him and nodded. 1 page cash. "Cash," I said. The copier flared and spit out the page. Asterisk, 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 family, in ornate letters at the top. The footer read today's date and 2:31 p.m. He stamped the bottom corner. The blue circle looked like a calm eye. I slid both sheets into a clear sleeve I pulled from my jacket. The plastic made a soft sigh as it sealed. "You keep those whiteboards around?" I asked. He laughed. "We wipe them at closing. Then I'll take a picture now." And I lifted my phone and framed asterisk, Fry 10 a.m., final run locked with a counter in the corner, one shot, no zoom. He tilted his head at the booklet. You know, most dads come in here to order pocket squares. I don't look good in squares. He smiled despite himself. No refunds on truth. Wouldn't take one. I paid cash. He counted it slow, the way people do when they're buying time to say something kinder. He didn't find the words and I didn't need them. On my way out, the bell dinged again. A woman with a binder breezed past me, perfume and stress. The clerk said, "We're locked for the day." The shop phone started ringing before he finished the sentence. I stepped onto the sidewalk and felt the page inside the sleeve against my ribs when I tucked it under my arm. It wasn't heavy, but it held. I felt a thin lift under the ribs. Quiet pride, weary resolve, a record where there hadn't been one. I folded the program around the sleeve, the blank line facing in like it could stop looking at me for a while. Then I headed for the truck. Behind me, the shop phone kept ringing and ringing. The envelope sat awkwardly in my hand, heavier in implication than in weight. HOA letterhead, dated and stamped. Received August 12th. Hearing August 25th. I stood at the curb by my mailbox, the morning heat clinging to my shirt. Mrs. Kellerman, the HOA secretary, was still halfway down the block. "Thought you'd want this in person, Sam," she called. Her voice clipped like she'd rather be delivering a jury summons. I turned the letter over. "You're making it official now." "Policy," she said, already walking. Back inside, I set the notice on my desk. The wedding program still lay there from last week's revelation, my name absent in bold serif. The two pieces of paper sat side by side like matching exhibits, family erasure paired with bureaucratic scheduling. Nathan's name lit the screen. I answered. "Dad, can we not make this bigger than it is?" His voice was quiet, controlled. "Some things are already big, you just don't like the scale." A pause. "This is about moving forward, not all that old stuff." "Close. That old stuff is the reason you're rewriting me out of your life. Now I've got a hearing date about it. August 25th. That's HOA business, not mine." He hung up before I could press further. I stared at the calendar. 13 days. My pulse picked up. That low burn of anxiety that comes when the clock starts ticking and the walls begin to close in. Out the window, neighbor Tom was hauling a recycling bin to the curb. I stepped outside. "Tom," I called. "HOA hearing?" He shrugged. "I've heard plenty. Folks are saying this is more about optics than rules. You're complicated, Sam." "Complicated keeps things interesting." He gave me a look that said he had more to say, but wouldn't. "Not yet." "Watch yourself," he muttered, walking away. I went back in, tucking the notice into a folder marked HOA. When I checked the stack of mail again, one envelope I'd seen earlier, small, cream-colored, was gone. The pile was thinner. I looked toward the front door, wondering who might have taken it and why. The printer coughed out the last page and went quiet, a little fan ticking down like it had run a race. I laid the sheets side by side on the counter, the forwarded thread with the header bar and the 5:12 p.m. timestamp. Then the message itself. Asterisks, Dad won't be attending, health issues, asterisks, sitting neat as a label on a specimen jar, margin in pen block letters, asterisk S. Carver, 8:15 a.m. Asterisks. One stroke for the day, one for the man still breathing. My phone buzzed. Marina. Stamped, copy, waiting. Asked for me. I sent back a single dot. We understood each other. I slid the pages into a manila envelope and wrote a D in the corner. The wedding program lay on the counter like a smug cousin. Same scroll work, same dare. I set the envelope on top of it so the lie and the truth touched. Nathan's voicemail arrived without a ring. "Don't make this awkward today, Dad, please." I hit play again and turned the volume down until his voice sounded like it was coming from another room. "I fried the phone with Leah," I answered. "You want me to post a correction?" she asked, breathless. "I can say you're coming. I'll paste the screenshot if you want." "Not yet," I said. "People are already repeating it. Aunt Joe texted me, a prayer hands emoji." "I know." "So do I sit on my hands?" "Hold," I said. "Timing matters. I'll bring what's mine. The record." She was quiet then. "Okay, I trust you." Check the lock screen. Ceremony in 6 hours. 45 millimeters. The numbers ticked along like they always do, indifferent. Asterisk, asterisk, indifference is useful. It keeps you honest. They wrote today's date on the manila flap and pressed it close. No tape. Paper should be able to breathe. I printed a simple label. Asterisk, asterisk, threshold, health story forwarded. Asterisk, asterisk, stuck it to the front. A text from Nathan popped up and sat there. Let's not turn this into an audit, be gracious. I typed, be truthful. I didn't hit send. I don't negotiate with the temperature of a room. I carried the AD envelope to the little table by my front door and set it down. Next to the bowl of keys in the box cutter, the funeral suit hung from the closet knob in the hall. Dark, ready, not asking for attention. I took one last look at the prints through the paper. Clean chain, clean hands. They can borrow my name. They don't get my truth. The phone buzzed again. I turned it face down and left the envelope where I could see it as I passed. Some things you don't carry. You stage them for when they need to be picked up. I took it out of its plastic and laid it on the bed. The jacket still kept its shape, like it remembered the last time it had to hold me up. In the top drawer, I keep the photographs that matter. I thumbed past birthdays and drywall jobs until I found the one I wanted. Nathan in a red gown, arm hooked around my neck, both of us squinting into a hot afternoon. The bleachers were sunburn on my memory. The PA had kept squealing. He'd said, "We did it, Dad." I sat on the edge of the bed and let the picture rest in my palm. The phone buzzed. "Marina, talk to me," I said. "Quick download," she said. AV load slides an hour before show. Once they're queued, swapping is not impossible, but it's ugly. Who controls the mic script? Forged MC does. Officiant's got ceremony phrasing. I've got booth timing. If they try to get cute, I'll see it. She lowered her voice. "You okay?" I've stood under heavier beams. A beat. Copy that. I'm in the booth tonight. If something's off, text me before you walk. I'll be eyes up. I looked at the photo again. In the frame, I'm thinner, hair darker, smile unguarded. The kind of picture people use when somebody dies. The thought hit hard enough to light my back. I slid it into a thin sleeve and set it on the dresser with the other items. No stamps, no numbers, just a face in a moment he can't claim didn't happen. A ping. Nathan's text. "Don't corner Olivia's dad today. He's under a lot of pressure." I typed, "I don't corner people, I show them." I sent it. He said nothing else. The clock ticked toward noon, each click neat as a nail-driven true. Church bells floated in from somewhere past the oak trees. 1, 2, 3. The house held its breath with me. I tied my tie in the mirror. My hands remembered the sequence. The suit sat right on my shoulders. Armor, not costume. Another ping. Venue bought. Asterisk grip. Reminder. Ceremony begins at 3 p.m. Please arrive early. Asterisk grip. I told the empty room. I gathered the photo, slid it into the envelope with the program proof and the printed thread, then paused. No, this one I kept loose in my inside pocket. Asterisk grip. Identity doesn't need lamination to be true. Asterisk grip. The phone lit again. Marina. Green room rehearsal at 2. I'll be in the booth by 1:30. I texted back. If something's off on the slides, you'll see it. Her reply came fast. Slides. I'll be in the booth. I put the jacket on and felt the photo settle against my ribs. Anger can run hot. Mine runs straight. I opened the front door and stepped into the heat. The venue smelled like lemons and electrical dust. Sun pulled on the hardwood while staff taped cords flat. A chalkboard leaned by the green room door. Asterisk, 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 ceremony, D-1. Asterisk, asterisk, someone had sketched a tiny bell in the corner like it was all a game. Marina found me in the foyer. 2 minutes, she said, eyes moving, hands full of gaffer tape. He's between calls. Guarantee. Asterisk, thank you. She nudged the door with her hip. Inside, Richard Harper stood by a window, phone face down on the sill, sleeves rolled, the look of a man who buys time for a living. "Mr. Harper," Marina said, "quick AV question about lectern height. And your guest." "Father of the groom," I said, "Samuel Carver." He held my eyes, no smile, no flinch. "All right, make it quick." I took the program from my jacket, folded once, not dramatic, and opened to the family page. No codes, no speeches, just the absence sitting there in print. "Is this the version for tomorrow?" I asked. He looked down, read the line, then read it again. The room did a small private click. "Where did you get this?" he asked, voice low. "From my mailbox. Same run that went to Guess." Richard's jaw tightened and then relaxed like he was filing something where it wouldn't be lost. He closed the booklet carefully and handed it back. "Timing matters," he said. Of course he would have radar. Nathan stepped in with a grin meant for photographs. "Everything okay in here?" Richard's face went pleasantly blank. "We're fine." Nathan's eyes moved to the program in my hand. "What's that?" "A design choice," I said. "We've talked about this," he said to me, still smiling at his father-in-law. "Please don't make trouble." "If I wanted to make trouble," I said, "you'd already know." I took a half step closer, voice dropping. "Then don't corner Richard with your grievances." "I didn't corner anyone," I said. I showed him a page. Richard lifted a hand, settling the air. "Nathan, I asked for a moment. AV detail." Nathan swallowed whatever else he had loaded and backed a fraction toward the hall. "Right, I'll be outside." He left the door mostly closed. His shadow stayed in the crack. Richard looked back at me. "You plan to attend tomorrow?" "Yes." "And to speak?" "I plan to stand," I said, "and let the record speak." He tapped the edge of the sill with one finger, thinking. "Mr. Carver, I don't negotiate in hallways." "I didn't come to negotiate," I said, "only to make sure the right people see the right line." A slight smile. I saw it. We both heard Nathan clear his throat on the other side of the door, the universal signal that patience was ending. Richard checked his watch, then the chalkboard in the hall. "We'll keep the order," he said. It wasn't a promise, but it wasn't nothing. A truth half seen can still turn things. I felt it in my sternum. Equal parts satisfaction and warning. A crew member appeared with a clipboard. "Lectern set," she said to Richard, then to me under her breath. 2 minutes were up, 30 seconds ago. I tucked the program and slipped it back inside my jacket, feeling how much smaller my suit looked under all these lights. A costume if I let it be. Armor if I chose. At the threshold, Nathan slid in front of me, smile gone. "Whatever you're doing, stop, please." "I've been stopping for a year," I said. "Tomorrow I stand." He worked his jaw, searching for a tone that would box me in. "If you loved me, you wouldn't embarrass me. If you loved me, you wouldn't erase me." For a heartbeat, his eyes wavered. Then the performance returned. "See you tomorrow." I stepped past him into the corridor. The chalkboard's D1 stared back. Staff rolled a cart of folded chairs past me, the metal knocking softly. Countdown in another language. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I let it ring twice, then stop. No message. When I glanced back through the door glass, Richard was picking up his own phone and declining a call. He turned it face down again. I read that as a pledge, but it wasn't a negotiation either. He sent the rehearsal to the people who needed to rehearse. Outside, the light had gone soft, lemon fading to brass. I waited by the curb, watching the door, but no one followed. Retention, not chase. I walked to my car and sat, the program a thin weight against my ribs, and watched my screen stay black. The elevator door slid open to the lobby, and the first thing I saw was a bright orange notice pinned dead center on the corkboard. The font was all business. "Updated access policies effective immediately." "Morning," said Mr. Bell from behind the desk, his eyes darting between me and the paper. I stepped closer. A new policy requiring advanced written approval for non-resident visitors stared back at me. The paper crinkled slightly where it had been taped over last week's community events flyer. "A new line?" I asked. He shook his head. "Management's orders." I traced a finger down the page and froze. At the bottom in small print were the initials NH. "That's interesting," I murmured. "Shouldn't be," he said quickly, but the flush in his cheeks told me it was exactly as interesting as I thought. Upstairs, I set my bag down and opened the laptop. Today's goal was straightforward. I locked down the timeline for Olivia's father's supposed generosity with the wedding arrangements. The more I aligned receipts, the clearer the overlaps in his version of events. I pulled up the scanned invoices. One bore the hall's official seal dated just 3 days before Nathan told me I wasn't needed at the wedding. The timestamp glared in the corner like a silent witness. Printing them felt like lining up soldiers, each page a quiet ally. I slid them into a blue folder marked ****Hall Originals****, and placed it in the lock drawer. The phone rang. It was my cousin Beth. "Saw that notice in your lobby," she said. "Seems aimed at you." "Good, means I'm getting close," I replied. "Careful, they're tightening the walls." I've worked in tighter. That night, I left the notice up. Let them think the squeeze was working, but in my drawer, the folder stayed warm under my palm. Proof that the wall they were building had a crack in it. Marina met me at the bend in the hallway where the carpet changed from floral to plain. She lifted a coil of gaffer tape like a baton. 60 seconds, she whispered. "Green room doors cracked. If they clock you, you were asking me about a power strip." "Copy," I said. My hands knew the work. I palmed the charger block I'd hollowed last year for site visits. Camera lens no bigger than a pin. Battery good for minutes, not hours. Cold focus, no tremor. Marina rolled the tape across my sleeve, noisy on purpose, and shouldered through the wedge of door. Inside, voices. Low rehearsal cadence. I angled in behind her and slipped the block to the outlet just inside the jam. The red LED winked once and went dark. "Those no longer with us," the officiant was saying, reading from a sheet. Nathan chuckled. My dad. But there was laughter. His. A stagehand's. Maybe the MC's. Soft and comfortable, like an inside joke that wouldn't cost them. Marina dropped her coil. It thumped the wall. A clumsy sound. "Sorry," she said cheerfully to the room. A set. "Carry on," we backed out. She pulled the door to a sliver and planted herself across the hall, suddenly fascinated by a clipboard. I watched the seconds on my phone. 40, 50, a minute. "Got it," she said, not looking at me. "Got enough. Back." When I cleared my throat once like a man about to ask something trivial and reached for the outlet. The block came free with a dry click. In my palm, it felt exactly like what it pretended to be. We moved down the corridor to a service alcove. I fit the block's cap, pulled my phone, and tapped the app. A thumbnail surfaced, grainy, angled toward a tangle of legs and a chairback, but the timestamp floated clean in the corner. I hit mirror. A sweeper bar climbed, then flashed, synced. "Insurance," Marina said. "Chain," I said. A chime sounded down the hall. "Please be seated," the MC announced. The hallway clock over the water cooler flipped 2:59 to 3 o'clock with a soft click that carried farther than it should have. "Time," Marina said. We stepped back into traffic. Guests moved like a slow river toward the open doors, perfume and cologne pooling in the airflow. On the MC's clipboard, the program was clipped beneath the run sheet, my absence laminated into the plan. I kept pace with the flow, far wall side, invisible as paint. From the corner of my eye, I saw a staffer roll the gift table toward the main doors. My chest, the one I'd built from walnut with a dovetail that made me smile, sat centered on the cloth like a small ship. The staffer paused, took a call, and then, without ceremony, steered the cart toward the side corridor where overflow chairs lived. Out of the main line. Out of the photographs. "Need me?" Marina said. "Not yet." The room dimmed 2 shades. Music hummed up from the floor. Over the speaker, the MC's voice warmed the crowd. Asterisk friends and family, please silence your devices. Asterisk friend, family. The words landed like someone else's mail. I ducked into a niche by a sconce and checked the clip again. Only long enough to see the officiant's sleeve, the turn of Olivia's hand, the shape of Nathan's smile when he said the line. Not a confession, something better. Asterisk, intent. I wrapped the file into a cloud folder with one tap. The device vibrated, asterisk done. I slid the block into my pocket behind my wallet. Just another square of plastic in a man's coat. "Ready?" Marina said, reappearing at my shoulder. She looked out at the room, not at me. "Show starting." "Ready." "Stay where you can be seen," she added, voice dipped low. "But not before you mean to be." "I know. We joined the last of the crowd at the turn into the hall. I let the usher guide me toward the back row. He smiled like a flight attendant. "Back rows are fine, sir." For the 9th time, the music was offensive. The DJ made a slight shift in song. This mist of one of the big pros of market is not best, but I will say that there is an actual moaning sound carded required to be said. In was in Maga's Plants Willing. I came up a service letting passing face life a run on by song game, and ascending fast with song, "We will win." So that was a line, or in the US say, "In the first day we're not." Maybe someone hungry to the service in this cold blast in the Sogmus will be able to fill in the line. In mastering this, I kept that thinking out on these for the author, Agna Ventura Caraftau, with the narratives in cities and necessary, ingroovable adventures, were over 2 wands for the CDA apartments. The procession started, pairs down the aisle, shoes whispering across wood. Nathan appeared with the officiant near the arch, smiling the way you practice in a mirror. Olivia took the last turn on her father's arm, and the room sighed the way rooms do when money looks like grace. "Friends and family," the officiant said, voice rounded by the mic. "We gather to celebrate love and to honor those who are with us, a hitch, a page flip, and those who are no longer with us." Nathan's mouth twitched. I knew that twitch now. I had it on tape. A row ahead, an usher glanced back at me and gave the smallest steer of his chin, nudging me toward the shadow. I didn't move. I wanted a clear line to the aisle, to the words. The officiant's next line landed like a hammer wrapped in velvet. "The groom's father passed some years ago." There was a ripple, laughter, muted for church. The little humane coughs people make when they're told sorrow is part of the story. I watched it pass over faces like a breeze and then fade. I felt the hit and stayed standing inside myself. Heat wanted my throat. I swallowed it back down where resolve lives. From the front row, Richard Harper shifted. Not a big move. Just the way a man puts weight into his heels when he's decided what the next hour is for. His eyes cut to the back. For a second, they locked on mine. No nod, no smile, a simple, hard recognition. He looked away. Nathan didn't. He looked past the flowers, past the camera tripods, straight down the aisle, till his stare hit me. We traded nothing. Then he turned back to the script like it was a lifeline. 2 rows up, a cousin, mine, half raised a hand, then let it fall to her lap. I knew what she wanted to do, stand and say, "No, he's here." I shook my head once small. She stayed put. The ceremony moved on. Vows by committee, a reading with soft edges. I listened because men like me are trained to listen. When things crack, you hear it before you see it. When they reached the rings, the ring bearer tripped his cue and laughs washed the room clean for a second. Nathan and Olivia smiled the way you have to. The MC's pen tapped the run sheet twice. Back on track. Family tension found me anyway. On the outer aisle, the usher slipped behind my row and muttered near my ear. "Back rows are fine, sir." "Back rows are visible," I said. He straightened as if I'd saluted him and faded forward. The cause rose like steam. I didn't add to it. Not because I couldn't, but because I was saving sound for when sound mattered. The last chord, the officiant lifted his hands. "I present to you," names, cheers, cameras. Through it all, the green room clip in my pocket felt cool as a coin and twice as spendable. As the recessional began, Richard's head turned again. First to the doors, then deliberately back to me. He didn't beckon. He didn't need to. The look said, "I see the line. It would be enough for today." I stayed in my lane as the couple passed, smiling like their faces were ironed. A petal landed on my shoe. I brushed it off with a toe. Music swelled. The aisle emptied. I remained standing until the after-hush settled, and only the ushers and a camera operator were left. The operator checked his time code, called it top of the hour, and shut the tripod down. The room kept breathing. In the doorway, the MC flipped his clipboard to the toast window and tapped the card 7 to 7:15 p.m. That was the next place the record would speak. I stepped into the aisle and waited for the river of people to start again. It did, in the usual confused currents, hugs, photos, small, proud noises. Nathan glanced back once more and found me where he'd left me. He looked away first, and see myself. I wasn't leaving without making him own the lie. I turned toward the reception hall and joined the flow. The metal detector beeped like a smoke alarm that had opinions. A guard held up a hand. Trays jammed one at a time. Nathan slid his watch and phone into the next bin. I straight ahead. I did the same 2 lanes over. The belt squealed, stuttered, then lurched. His bin cleared first. Petty victory. He glanced back, a faint smile. "You don't have to do this. It's why there's a door," I said. "You go through it." He lifted his shoulder and kept walking. When my tray spat out, I collected my things, tucked the pen into my inside pocket, and followed the flow to the clerk's civil filings. The hall smelled like paper and disinfectant. Marble held everyone's footsteps at the same volume. Neutral ground. At the window, the clerk peered over her readers. Name, Samuel Carver. Filing type, petition and supporting exhibits. She flipped the top page. Everything signed? I laid my palm on the stack to keep it square. Twice were you asked? Good. And she set a brass date stamp, inked it, and came down clean. Received. Then she initialed the corner and wrote, hearing 30 days across the header. The ink bled a little into the fiber, a living line. I breathed out. Steadying pride settled in seeing my name next to the clerk's stamp. This wasn't a text thread. It would not vanish because someone preferred it that way. Behind me, a familiar voice, Nathan. Pitch polite. Is there a way to expedite a response? Unresolved. We don't represent parties, the clerk said without looking up. We docket. He stepped to my shoulder. Dad, this is a waste of time. Time's only wasted if you lose. He worked his jaw. Olivia's family doesn't need theatrics. Flushing them. The clerk slid my top copy back under the glass. Keep this for your records, she said, tone neutral like a level on a plank. The date stamp and her initials winked under the fluorescent hum. I put the signed page into a clear sleeve and sealed it with a thumb press. One dock beat is enough when it's the right one. From down the hall, a paralegal hustled by with a red rope. Nathan's attorney peeled off a bench, intercepting her, then spotted us and changed course. He carried a sealed folder like it might bite. Mr. Carver, he said to Nathan, conference room. That eyes on me. Take 30, I said. It won't change the stamp. He exhaled through his nose, a small hoarse sound, and turned away with counsel. The guard from screening wandered past, nodded at my copy like he'd seen 1,000 of them, and knew exactly what they meant. Someone decided to stand on paper. The clerk. She lifted her hand in a half-wave, already calling the next name. Semantics. The air felt cooler. I took the sleeve into my folio behind the program proof in the forwarded thread. Sisterus, sisters, chain stayed clean. Sisterus. I pressed the button and watched the numbers crawl down. The doors opened. Inside stood Nathan's lawyer with that sealed folder. He didn't smile, neither did I. The doors slid shut between us, quiet as a kept promise. The morning light cut a square across my desk calendar. I'd circled the box reading 23 days. I snapped a photo, slid the phone into my pocket, and picked up the same pen I'd used on every page that mattered in this mess. The weight steadied my hand. The community center smelled like floor wax and coffee. In the lobby, 2 staffers shuffled a stack of forms. Court's moving a few items up, one said. Might pull next week's docket earlier. Bless the backlog, the other muttered. I slowed just enough to hear it again. Earlier, a small gear clicked behind my ribs. Margaret waved me into room B. A folding table, 3 chairs, a little digital recorder with a red cap over the button. She set down 3 paper cups. Olivia's parking, she said. Let's keep this short and human. Human I can do, I said, and laid my pen in the middle of the table like a bridge. Olivia slipped in, sunglasses up on her head, face already apologizing. Hi, Margaret, Samuel, thank you for coming, I said. She looked at the recorder. I don't know about that thing. It doesn't have teeth, Margaret said gently. You can stop at any time. We can also just talk, I offered, but the record helps. She sat, hands under the table. I hate airing dirty laundry. Talon's truth still the truth, even if it's uncomfortable. She flinched. Nathan says you're trying to make him look like a monster. Look dead. Margaret slid the recorder closer, not pressing anything. Let's start soft. Olivia, can you state your name for the record if you're willing? And how you know Samuel? Olivia stared at the pen between us. Olivia Harper, I married his son. Thank you, Margaret said. Now in your own words. No rush. Tell us about the week before the ceremony. Communication, seating, anything that stands out. There was pressure. My dad wanted everything perfect. Nathan wanted optics. I wanted peace. Dates, I said, keeping my voice level. Do you remember when the program proof was approved? She glanced up. Tuesday. Margaret nodded. Would you be comfortable saying that on the record? Her eyes went to the little red cap. Maybe we just talk first. I looked at her, then hers. We can do that. We spoke without the red light. Olivia described texts she hadn't answered, a seating chart she saw on a tablet, a joke Nathan made that she didn't like. She kept smudging the edges where dates should be. I felt quiet frustration rise and put a lid on it. Patience has a sound. It's the breath you take before the next nail. Olivia, I said, if we turn the recorder on, could you say what you just said about Tuesday? Not an attack, just a timestamp. Her mouth pressed flat. If I say it, Nathan will say I gave you a weapon. Margaret kept her tone like a warm towel. You're not taking sides. You're describing your week. Can I think for a second? Margaret said. We sat with the hum of the building. Someone rolled a cart down the hall somewhere. A child laughed too loudly. Fine, Olivia said at last. But if I get a text from Nathan, I'm stopping. Your choice, Margaret said, and clicked rec. The red light bloomed. State your name again? She asked. Olivia Harper. A tremor. And the day you saw the program proof? Tuesday, a beat. I think. Take your time, Margaret said. Olivia glanced at me. It was on Dad's desk after lunch. Nathan said the designer cleaned up the family page. Those were his words? I asked. Yes. Her phone vibrated on the table. She didn't touch it. Did you see Samuel's name? Margaret asked. Olivia's throat moved. No. Margaret's finger hovered near stop. Do you want to continue? Olivia pressed her lips together. Nathan said it would be simpler. For who? I asked. Her phone buzzed again. She flinched and reached for it. The screen showed his name, lighting up the room more than the fluorescent bulbs. She turned the phone over face down and kept going. Samuel wasn't on the family table. She said he was nowhere. Thank you, Margaret said. Do you feel safe saying that for the record? Today? Yes. Another breath. I'm tired. She snatched it, red, and her face closed. She lifted a hand toward the recorder, fingers trembling. I need to stop. Margaret hit stop. The red light died. What did he say? I asked. She shook her head. You know what he said. Say it anyway. She stood, chair legs squeaking. He said, I'm hurting the family. Which one? The question came out flatter than I meant. She swallowed. I can't be the reason you two, her voice thinned. I'm sorry. I thought I could do this. You did part of it, Margaret said. That matters. She slung her bag onto her shoulder. She looked at my pen, then at me. He wasn't supposed to be cruel, she said, almost to herself. Cruel lives in small choices, I said. She took a step toward the door, then turned back. I'll send you something later. Not this, but something. She left before I could ask what something meant. The room exhaled. Margaret clicked the recorder and checked the file count. We have her name, Tuesday, the cleaned up line, and nowhere, then stop. End on chains clean, I said. Gaps real. We can invite her again, Margaret offered. Different day. I thought of the lobby conversation about the docket. We may not have different days. I picked up the pen and felt the groove my thumb had carved into it over years of use. I set it down in the center again, like a promise I was making to the table. Thank you, I told Margaret. For what? For being the room where people try. She smiled. Bring me the rest when you have it. I stepped into the hallway. Olivia's silhouette was already gone. Down the corridor, a bulletin board listed events in neat rows. Someone had taped a fresh flyer over last week's schedules. Move, people decide. I pulled out my phone and opened the photo of the calendar, hearing 23 days. The number felt less like a cushion and more like a fuse. The knock was sharper than usual, the kind you use when you've already decided you're not staying long. I opened the door to find Margaret clutching her phone, cheeks flushed from the February wind. They've changed the docket. Don't sit down, she said, stepping in. I was just at the courthouse. The phone in her hand lit up with the clerk's voice echoing from the lobby. Fast-track cases, all of them pushed to Friday. Friday, I repeated. My hearing was scheduled for next Thursday. That's the point, she said. They've moved yours up. No notice in the mail yet. I only heard because the loudspeaker announced it while I was filing. The echo of that voice, tiny and official, clung to the back of my skull. They want me unprepared, I said. Or hoping you'll panic, she replied. Don't give them the satisfaction. I poured coffee into 2 mugs, though neither of us drank. If they want a fast track, I'll give them one, I said, and I meant it. Margaret leaned against the counter. You have enough to fight back. The envelope on the table, the one holding the printed leak from the board's internal chat. I will by tonight. We sat at the table. The document between us like a loaded card in a poker hand. The message thread inside was time-stamped 3 days ago. If Carver shows up, treat him as a disruptive party, no exceptions. They put that in writing, Margaret said, eyes narrowing, poring over the date, which means they can't pretend it's just my word against theirs. They'll deny sending it. They'll have to, I said. And when they do, I'll hand this to the hearing officer. The coffee had gone cold. Margaret stood, tucking her phone into her coat. You've got less than 48 hours now. I'll make sure the clerk who announced it is ready to confirm. As she left, I caught a glimpse of the pen lying next to the envelope, the same one I'd used to sign Nathan's graduation card years ago. I slipped it into my pocket. The kitchen felt smaller after she was gone, the ticking wall clock loud in the silence. I stared at the envelope, the sound of the courthouse loudspeaker still ringing in my head. The calendar banner slid across my phone as I stepped off the bus. Asterisk hearing tomorrow, 10 a.m. It glowed like a warning flare and then vanished. I called my daughter on the walk to Richard's tower. I'm heading to see him. Dad, she said, soft and urgent. Please don't. You'll just make it worse. It's you, I said. It's the lie that's loud. I'm not embarrassed by you. I'm scared for you. End quote. I hear you. The floor tilts, but my feet remember level. I'm not picking a fight. I'm asking a man to look me in the eye. Promise you'll walk if they stonewall. I'll walk, I said, and meant it. We both knew walking and quitting aren't the same thing. Cool air at me, all marble and glass. A compliance team in blue lanyards spilled out of the elevators, clipboards tapping the turnstile glass. Audit window closes 5 sharp, one said to the guard. Copy, the guard answered, eyes scanning badges with new zeal. I smoothed my jacket, touched the pen in my pocket, and stepped to the desk. Guest pass for Richard Harper, Samuel Carver. Her speech kept her have an appointment. Mr. Carver, I left a voicemail. He's expecting my name. She paused, not seeing a slot. Please let him know I'm in the lobby today. The guard added, not unkindly. No exceptions without prior approval. My phone buzzed in my palm. Olivia, I can't be on record anymore. Please don't use what I said. The message timestamp branded the screen. I let the air out slow. Understood, I texted back and screenshotted the thread. One image, timestamp visible, before I turned the phone face down. The chain is the chain, even when the link is a retreat. 2 interns drifted past the fountain with paper cups. Did you read that piece? One whispered. The dad sounds, yikes. The other glanced at me and went quiet. Mr. Carver, the receptionist said brightly, I'm still not seeing approval. Can you call upstairs? She lifted the handset, murmured, listened, nodded. His assistant says he's unavailable. Unavailable? I repeated. Today's audit. I looked at the turnstiles. Red and green LEDs in alternating rhythm. The guard gestured to the reader. If your name's not on the list, it will flash red. Saves us both the walk. Let it flash then, I said. She shrugged and hit a key. I pressed the guest pass pad. The light blinked red. The turnstile answered with a sharp beat that bounced off the glass. Heads turned. Then the lobby swallowed the sound like it eats every refused thing. His voicemail picked up on the second ring. Richard, it's Samuel Carver. I'm downstairs. Tomorrow at 10, they'll say speed is fairness. It isn't. Look at the program page I showed you. Listen to your own daughter's words before fear edits them. I'll stand where you can see me. I hung up, no callback. A clock above the directory read 4:59 p.m. and ticked to 5 with visible satisfaction. My daughter called again. Well, Stonewalled, I said, I'm walking. Please come home. Disillusion is where I keep the record, I said, and I meant that kindly. The guard nodded as I passed. Not hostile, just a man who does gates. I nodded back, a man who builds. Outside, the wind came up the canyon of glass and flags. My phone lit once more with Olivia's bubble typing, then nothing. I pocketed it, left one last voicemail hanging upstairs, and pushed through the revolving door into early evening. I had what I needed for tomorrow. The room hummed like an old fridge, steady, impersonal. A wall clock ticked 9:59, the second hand jerking toward a clean line. Beside it, the docket monitor refreshed. Carver versus HOA, 10 a.m. I set my pen on the table, point toward the dais. Margaret leaned close. Exhibit first, she whispered. Chain, then play. The second hand climbed and clicked. 10 a.m. Everyone is on the record, the hearing officer said. Parties present. Samuel Carver, I said. Nathan Carver, my son said from the opposite table, jaw tight. Board chair present, said a man I had only met in memos. Richard Harper, Richard said from the first row. He nodded once toward me, acknowledgement without warmth. Olivia Carver, she said softly, hands folded in her lap. The clerk lifted a slate and called the case number. Then exhibit's voice level. One exhibit, Your Honor. Video file previously mirrored and lodged with the clerk per notice, taken from a wall charger camera I placed in the green room corridor. I said original mirrored at capture file hash verified by the clerk this morning. The officer looked to the clerk. Verified, she said, tapping a key. Objection, Nathan sighed, said reflexively. Invasion of privacy. But it's a common area, Margaret murmured, and I followed with no reasonable expectation of privacy in the corridor. Sustained as to any audio inside the closed room, the officer said, but overruled as to the corridor. Play only what's admissible. The lights dimmed, 2 clicks. The screen filled with a low angle, the crack of a door, shoes, a sleeve. In the top left corner, the timestamp overlay glowed. Asterisk drawers Qualmare, quote, 14706, asterisk quote, a single cold witness. On the audio bed, hallway air and the officiant's voice spilling from the open door. Asterisk quote, those who are no longer with us. Asterisk quote, the Nathan's chuckle, indisputable. Like my dad. Olivia's quick whisper. Asterisk, don't. Asterisk quote. Laughter, small and sure like people enjoying the shape of a story. Pause, the officer said. The room exhaled, counsel Mr. Carver. I didn't look at Nathan. This is not grief, I said. It's rehearsal. The board chair cleared his throat. This is being taken out of context. Scripts get polished. Which script? Richard asked, sudden steel in his voice. He stood without being called. Because what I heard was rehearsed cruelty. He turned finally fully to face the room. That is Samuel Carver, and he's very much alive. He showed me the printed program before the ceremony. His name was deliberately removed. A murmur rolled. The officer tapped a pencil. Order! Nathan's eyes flicked to Richard, then to me. He started to speak, stopped, tried again. His voice dried out. It was supposed to be poetic. Margaret's hand brushed the edge of my sleeve. You wrote me out, I said once clean. The record wrote me back. The officer nodded toward the screen. Resume. The clip ran 8 more seconds. Enough. The clerk froze it on Nathan's smile, the timestamp steady as a nailhead. Exhibit admitted, the officer said. Board chair, explain your communications regarding witness scheduling. The chair hedged. We sought efficiency. No one was targeted. Except, if Carver shows up, treat him as disruptive, Richard quoted. Eyes on the chair. Your words to your board, I saw the thread, the chair said quickly. Noted, the officer said. He turned to Olivia. Miss Carver, did you see a program proof the Tuesday before the ceremony? Her fingers tightened. She glanced at me. Fear, apology, something human that hurt to watch, and then at Richard, who held her gaze like a rail. Yes, she said, on my father's desk. Nathan told me the designer cleaned up the family page. Samuel's name wasn't there. Nathan's body sagged a half-inch. He looked at me and didn't find the old shelter in my face. The officer stacked papers, aligned corners. Asterisk, findings. The board's process was influenced by parties with a direct interest in the matter. The deceased reference coupled with pre-event edits demonstrates intentional misrepresentation. Remedies. The HOA will issue a corrective notice to all attendees and members identifying Mr. Sam Carver as living and present. Remove and replace any minutes or publications reflecting otherwise, and record a formal apology at the next board session. Further, Mr. Nathan Carver is admonished for orchestrating the misrepresentation. Asterisk. Around us, a room full of witnesses absorbed the shape of accountability. Nathan stood without being asked. Color had drained from his good suit. His voice came small and raw. Dad, Samuel, I'm sorry. He swallowed and tried again, louder for the room. I'm sorry, He stopped, shook his head, and wiped at one eye with the heel of his hand like a boy, not a groom. I shouldn't have done any of it. Let the record reflect the apology, the clerk said. Relief arrives like cool air. Anger settles into proof. I set my palm on the table on the pen and felt my breath finally go all the way down. The officer looked up at the clock. Written order by 4 p.m. today. Parties are obligated to comply promptly. This hearing is adjourned. He just closed the file with a flat hand. A chair scraped. The clip winked off. Richard stepped into the aisle. He didn't offer a hand. He didn't have to. Olivia whispered, "Thank you," and then was swallowed by people standing. I picked up my pen and slid it into my pocket. The docket monitor flipped to the next case. The clock kept time like it always had. We had the ruling. At 4 p.m., we'd have the paper. I turned toward the door. The clerk's monitor reflected in the glass like a small lake. A wall clock above it ticked 3:59. The second hand poised. Margaret stood beside me, elbows on the counter, eyes on the portal. The clerk refreshed the page. A new line slid into place, crisp, undeniable. Order posted, 3:59 p.m. "There it is," the clerk said. "Do you want a certified copy?" "Yes," I said, "and an email link." Printed. Stamped somewhere off screen. I didn't need to see the ink to know it was there. Margaret leaned close. "Remedies are paragraph 3. Ask for the exact language." The printout landed in my hand, still warm. I took out my pen and underlined the remedy line. Asterisk, asterisk. HOA shall issue a corrective notice to attendees and members. Replace any minutes or publications. Record a formal apology at the next board session. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. I nodded. "We'll use your conference room," I told Margaret. 15 minutes, then the board. Back at the clerk's window. The clock ticked to 4 with a clean little click. Relief isn't loud, it's the click when the latch catches. At 2 p.m., the boardroom speaker crackled. Asterisk or meeting called to order at 6:02 p.m. The chair scanned the rows, saw Richard Harper in the front, and straightened 2 extra degrees. Nathan sat against the wall, tie loosened, eyes on the table grain. "First item," the chair said, "compliance with order." "I've read it," I said. He cleared his throat and picked up a paper. "The board issues the following corrective notice." He read the sentence I'd underlined. "Mr. Samuel Carver is living and was present. Any implication to the contrary is withdrawn." He shifted to the minutes. "Prior publications will be replaced to reflect this correction." "Language," Richard said, voice mild but load-bearing. "Read it exactly." The chair read it exactly. I prompted from my shoulder. The chair set the notice down and looked at Nathan. A pause. Then, "The board records an apology to Mr. Carver for the publication and repetition of untrue statements at and around the event." "Into the minutes," I said. "Into the minutes," the secretary echoed, typing. The chair tried a hedge. "The board's intent, a motive isn't asked for," I said, calm. I touched the paper with my pen. "Remedies, paragraph 3. He paginated once and moved on. "Is there any discussion?" Richard raised a hand only to note that he witnessed the events and that the correction conforms to what he saw. He didn't look at Nathan when he said it. He didn't have to. The secretary read back the lines. "Corrective notice to be distributed by email tonight and posted on the website within 24 hours. Minutes will reflect apology language at item 1. "Good," Margaret said. The chair exhaled. "Next item?" "That's enough for me," I said and stood. In the hallway outside, Nathan stepped out of the shadow like a man leaving a photo. "Is this enough?" he asked. "It's a start," I said. "Put the rest in writing." He searched my face for the old bridge and didn't find it. "I will," he said so quietly I almost missed it. "Good," I said. "Put it in writing." He nodded, head down, and drifted back toward the door. Through the glass, I could see Richard at the front row speaking softly to the secretary, a finger on the line that mattered. Margaret touched my sleeve. "Want me to serve their rep officially?" "I signed your receipt already," I said, and handed her the envelope. "Chain stays clean." She smiled toward the clerk's level. The evening had that office building hush, HVAC breathing for everyone. In the lobby, a little boy scooted a chair with both hands while his mother filled out a form. The world kept doing what it does when a thing is fixed. At the counter again, the portal still showed order posted, 3:59 p.m. I took a photo from my file. No need to show it to anyone, just a marker for next week. I thumbed a quiet reminder into my phone. Compliance check, 1 week. No buzz, no banner. I slid the pen into the folio, closed it, and felt the spines settle under my palm. I didn't wait for applause. I nodded to the clerk, to Margaret, to the clock, and turned for the door. Justice didn't arrive with trumpets. It came on paper in a room that finally listened. At his wedding, they tried to write me out, but patience wrote me back in. I drove home lighter, not because they changed, but because the record held. I set the order in my folio and kept my pen.